Oliver and his brake van Toad liked working in the big yards, but one morning Toad noticed that Oliver was unhappy. He decided to find out why.
Excuse me, Mr. Oliver. It seems to me that things are not well with you, if you forgive me for mentioning it.
You're quite right, Toad. All I do is shunt these freight cars onto the turntable. I long for a nice run. It's what an engine really needs.
Quite so, Mr. Oliver. May I suggest that you speak to Sir Topham Hatt about your problems?
But Oliver said nothing. He just grew unhappier, and he was rough with the freight cars. You're no good, Oliver. You're dangerous. We want Percy. Percy's far too busy to be bothered with the likes of you. And Oliver bumped the freight cars hard. You silly engine, shouted a workman. It'll take a long time to repair this turntable, which will cause confusion and delay. That night, Sir Topham Hatt arrived. Oliver, you have caused confusion. I thought you could control freight cars. You shall work the mail train for a while. Maybe the night air will clear your smoke box. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir, said Oliver sadly. Cheer up, old chap, said his driver. The mail train run is a grand run for a fine engine like you. Oliver smiled, but he still felt he had let everyone down. His driver took them along the coastal run with the mail train. The fresh air couldn't help but brighten Oliver's spirits. They made good speed until it was time to collect some important mail from Harold the helicopter.
Come on, Harold!
At last, Harold landed. Sorry I'm late, Great Western. Had a bit of a problem with one of my arms. Kept letting me down when I was meant to be up. You know how it is. We know that we'll be late for our first run, replied Oliver's driver. Soon they were on their way again. Ahead was a red signal light. Oliver didn't realize that the signalman had dozed off. Oliver whistled several times, but the signal stayed red. There must be something wrong with that signal. We'll go slowly and stop by the signal box, said his driver. But they never reached it. The points before the signal box were switched to an old track. They were going the wrong way. Oliver's fireman was concerned. We need to find a water tower soon. Instead, they saw an old station. Disaster lay ahead. Meanwhile, Sir Topham Hatt was worried.
Oliver has not returned. We'll send out a search party.
Soon he was high in the sky with Harold.
There they are.
It wasn't Oliver's fault, sighed the driver. I'm aware of that. I'm just glad to see you are all safe. Then he saw something. It was an empty old house beside the station. He went to inspect it. When he returned, he spoke to Oliver.
You have found another attraction for our island. We'll make this house as good as new, and visitors can have tea and crumpets there.
Sighed Oliver. Getting lost can be interesting, but being found is much nicer. Especially when it makes an engine feel really useful.
Thomas the Tank Engine was feeling bright and cheerful. It was a splendid day. "Good morning," he whistled to some cows, but the cows didn't reply. "Never mind," said Thomas. "They're busy with their breakfast." Next, he saw Bertie. "Hello, Bertie. Care for a race today?" But all Bertie could say was, "Ouch! That's another hole in the road." "I'm sorry, Bertie," smiled Thomas. Thomas was still in good spirits when Bertie arrived at the next station. "Bad luck, Bertie. Now, if you were a steam engine, you would run on a pair of reliable rails." "Huh," replied Bertie. "The railway was supposed to deliver tar to mend the road 2 weeks ago. You can't trust a thing that runs on rails." "I run on rails. You can trust me, Bertie. I'll see if I can find out what's happened." And Thomas puffed away towards the big station. James was snorting about in the yard. "It's too bad," he grumbled. "Percy goes to work at the harbor and I do his job, here, there, and everywhere. Take that!" "Oh," groaned the freight cars, "just you wait. We'll show you." Gordon laughed. "I'll tell you what, James. If you pretended to be ill everywhere, you couldn't shunt freight cars here or go to the quarry there, could you?" "What a good idea," agreed James. "Look, here comes Thomas. I'll start pretending now." Thomas was sorry to see the engines looking miserable. "Cheer up," he puffed. "It's a beautiful day." "Yes," grumbled Gordon, "but not for James." "What's the matter?" asked Thomas. "He's sick," replied Gordon. "Yes, he is. I mean, I am," stuttered James. "I don't feel well at all." "Don't worry," said Thomas kindly. "I'll help out if you're ill." Gordon and James snickered quietly to each other. Some of James's cars were coupled behind Thomas and he steamed away to the quarry. The cars were still cross. "We couldn't pay James back for bumping us, so we'll play tricks on Thomas instead. One engine is as good as another." But Thomas didn't hear them. He collected all the stone from the quarry and set off back to the junction. Danger lay ahead. "Now for our plan," giggled the cars. "Go faster, go faster." They pushed Thomas over the switches. "Slow down," called Thomas's driver and applied the brakes. Poor Thomas stood dazed and surprised in a muddy pond as a toad eyed him suspiciously. "Bust my buffers," muttered Thomas. "The day started so well, too." Duck pulled away the cars, and Edward helped Thomas back to the junction. Suddenly, Thomas remembered the missing tar. He told Edward all about it. "That's strange," said Edward. "A car full of tar has been left at my station. That must be it. Driver will make sure it gets to Bertie now." Later, James spoke to Thomas. "I'm sorry about your accident," he muttered, "and so is Gordon. We didn't mean to get you into trouble." "No, indeed," spluttered Gordon. "A mere misunderstanding, Thomas. All's well that ends well." Just then, Bertie arrived. He looked much more cheerful. "My road's being mended now." "Oh, I am glad," replied Thomas. "Thanks for all you did," added Bertie. "Now I know I can trust an engine, especially if his name is Thomas." Gordon and James puffed silently away to the shed, but Thomas still had company. "Well, well," he sighed, "what a day for surprises." The toad, who was looking forward to a ride home, noisily agreed.
Thomas is his name. Thomas the tank engine rolling along. All of his friends will be coming along. Thomas, we love you. Shunting trucks and hauling freights, red and green and brown and blue. They're the really useful crew. All the different was to play around 10 minutes so far.